To proceed, we continue to go over this book, Al-Ubudiyyah, being a true slave of Allah. Ubudiyyah means slavery. In this context, it means slavery to Allah, or being a true slave of Allah. The book was authored by Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah bestow mercy on him, translated by Nasruddin al-Khatib, and published by Taha Publications, and has also been published, there is a different version of it, published by Al-Hidayah Publishers. We're still, you see, every author of a book gets quite influenced by the current trends of his time, right? Which is quite understandable. It's not a time bias. It is basically the author attempts to treat, cure, remedy certain ailments that affect the society in his time. That's why you need authors in every era, because every era has its own troubles, and every era has its own context as well, and has its own language. Not only every era, but every audience has different keys to different audiences. So it may have seemed redundant that we talked about, because may have seemed redundant that we talked about qadar, predestination, all that, because to you it may be clear, but during the time of Imam Taymiyyah it was not clear. People used the qadar or predestination to prove all sorts of falsehood in terms of creed and practice. Therefore, it was important to address the issue in this much detail. So he continues to talk about the pursuit of whims and desires. So the people who basically say that it is Allah who destined us to be the way we are, it is Allah's decree, what could have we done? They do follow in the footsteps of their fathers, as we said before. وإذا فعلوا فاحشة قالوا وجدنا عليها آباءنا والله أمرنا بها قل إن الله لا يأمر بالفحشاء تقولون على الله ما لا تعلمون. When they do something that is disgraceful or shameful, they say, we found our fathers doing it, and Allah commanded us to do them. They don't mean Allah commanded us that they received the message. They mean Allah decreed that we do them. So they used Allah's decree as a plea for their own wickedness. قُلْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ. Say, Allah does not command fahsha, or that which is shameful. أَتَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Do you say about Allah that of which you have no knowledge? Now, the same thing is also said by people who want to deviate in every era. They use predestination. They say, well, this is what Allah destined for me, or this is how I was born, and it doesn't seem that I can actually overcome this. When you say, I'm a nervous person, this is just like who I am, you're doing the same thing. You're using predestination here. You're saying that, I was made this way. It is beyond me. I can't control my anger because I was, I have a short fuse just by nature, born like this. So you're doing the same thing, maybe to a milder extent, but it is the same thing. Conceptually, there is a philosophical base for every phenomenon, for every, visible phenomenon. And that, the word of meanings and the word of appearances, Platonic division of things. In Islam, there is the word of the interior and the world of the exterior, and they need to match and be in harmony.
Now, quick question.
Yeah.
There's a difference if you say I was like, by nature, I'm angry by nature, and I can't do anything.
Yes.
Right? Like Abu Bakr's nature was, more shy. Umar was more aggressive, but it's not like they couldn't do anything. But by nature, they were like that. Right? You can say it by nature, they're like that.
Yeah, I would say Omar was more forceful instead of aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but they did. They changed it. Because Umar is the one who was pleading to Abu Bakr to not fight the apostates or the withholders of zakat. And in fact, not all of them are apostates in the sense that they apostatized. They just withheld the zakat. So it was, and since some people did apostatize, then those withholders of zakat, it was called Hurub al-Ridda, the battles of the apostasy, because basically some people reverted back into Jahiliyyah, but it was mainly the withholding of zakat. And the withholding of the zakat meant the sort of the defragmentation of the state, defragmentation of the nation. And it meant also the defragmentation of the religion, because if you can say, well, I'm not, accept this one, I'm not going to do this one, then in a few months or a few years, you or someone else will say, well, fasting also doesn't seem to be going very well for me, and we'll take that out, and so on and so forth. So Abu Bakr fought against it. Umar pleaded to Abu Bakr to not fight because it looked like it was unwinnable. Basically, just like too many tribes to fight, and they were very new to Islam as well. If you just remember the history, the Prophet ﷺ died in the year 10 after Hijrah, and that was pretty much just 2 years from 8 after Hijrah, which is the Fath Mecca, or the conquest of Mecca. And between 8 and 10, those tribes, most of those tribes converted. So many of them had not known much. Many of them had not seen the Prophet ever, had not learned much about Islam. And so Umar felt that it was very unstable, like very volatile situation. And Abu Bakr, here you can say that Umar was more pragmatic, Abu Bakr was more dogmatic, but dogmatism here was right and pragmatism was wrong. Because it is not always like this. It is not always the pragmatism is wrong. Because you need to be practical. You need to also use your logic and use your intelligence. Because, like, let's say that you're confronting an enemy that there is no way to defeat them. Then, in fact, it would be like sinful for the leader of the Muslim army to sort of expose his troops to annihilation, destruction, because he just wants to act brave. It is not brave. It is sinful. So that is practical. Although it is clear-cut, haqq and batil, truth and falsehood, and so on. If they are the most wicked, if this army is the most wicked in the world, and you just feel that you will be annihilated, you run away. Because running away in this case is mandatory. Because not running away means that you will expose your army. You're responsible now as a leader, you expose your army to defeat. Lives will be lost for no purpose. Because fighting is not legislated for fighting, it's legislated for a purpose. And if that purpose will not be served, then it is not just for fun. You don't just die because you want to go to heavens. Wait around and do righteousness, and you end up in heavens as well. So, they did change it. And Umar radiallahu anhu was this humble and easygoing. When he became the Khalifa, sweet and humble, easygoing, and everything. He showed a lot of humility to his subjects. He showed a lot of care. He showed a lot of emotions. He cried. In fact, Umar had 2 black lines running down from his eyes from his crying. So they were able to change, but ultimately, that change, you may get to the middle, but you may not get to like, you will not be Xerox copies of one another. You have your tendencies, inclinations, and he has his tendencies and inclinations. Although you come closer to the midpoint, but the midpoint or the desired middle is a circle, is not a dot, it's not a point, it's a circle. You come within the circle and you'll be fine. Because there is no like voice tone that, the one voice tone that is respectful and everything else will be haram, or like the braying of the ass, which is forbidden, which is sort of dispraised in the Quran. That is a certain tone, but then you don't have to be extremely soft to be nice or to be respectful. So when Allah forbids the braying of the ass in the Quran, and it is clear in the verse, إِنَّ أَنْكَرَ الْأَصْوَاتِ لَصَوْتُ الْحَمِيرِ, the most hated of voices is the braying of the ass. That is not to say that you have to be like extremely low-voiced, and you just need to get to the middle. And if you're a man, also it is forbidden to be effeminate in your speaking. It's cursed, the man who imitates women, and the woman who imitates men. So that end is cursed, then, or dispraised, and that end is dispraised. But the middle is wide. The middle is wide. It is not a dot. It is a circle. And that applies to also various inclinations. You just need to make sure that your inclinations do not push you into transgression or, shortcomings. So Imam Taymiyyah here on this page 42 of this particular version, Pursuit of Whims and Desires, and as we said, the titles are added by the translator. So he talks about the fact that the people who use this qadar and so on, it is not a matter of philosophy, it's not a matter of ideology, it's a matter of pursuing their whims and desires. The bottom line is, I want to do it, so I'll find justification for doing it. I am too lazy to do it, so I will find justification for not doing it. So that's the bottom line. It's not really sophisticated philosophy. It is pursuit of whims and desires. Then, why are people misguided? He says, why are people misguided? That is also a title from the translator. So Imam Taymiyyah says here, the main reason why anyone is misguided is because he gives precedence to his own opinion over the guidance revealed from Allah, and he prefers to follow his own whims rather than the commands of Allah. A person's tastes and emotions depend on his likes and desires. Well, people are misguided because there are various types of misguided people. There are the misguided intellectuals who, their misguidance is because they give precedence to their opinion, to their logic, and that is not the common logic that we all share. Because the common logic that we all share, which is the whole is bigger than the part is smaller than the whole, that is respected, and that we should never defy this. But your own logic, which varies from mine, so when you give precedence to your logic and to your opinion, that is how you get misguided as intellectual. There are those people who are emotional, and their misguidance comes from giving precedence to their emotions over the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those emotions could be various types of emotions. They don't have to be particularly, love of women or money or the other gender or anything. They could be basically just love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better. Love of Allah is greater. But out of human beings, out of creation, who's most deserving of love? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if you love him more than should, that is excessiveness. Could you? Yes. If your love of the Prophet ﷺ make you transgress the bound between the human and the divine, you make him perceive him in a way that sort of vagues out the demarcation, the borders between the human and the divine, then you have transgressed. Wasn't that the kind of transgression that the Nasara or the Christians fell in? Basically, it is. So it is excessiveness in their praise of Jesus, peace be upon him, or their love for Jesus, peace be upon him, or their sympathy with his tragedy, as they perceived it, that made them transgress. It was not the wrong direction. It was just the wrong force, or the excessiveness in that right direction. So the right direction is to love Jesus, peace be upon him, and respect him and honor him and revere him, etc., etc. So moving in the right direction, but with excessive force, excessive speed, taking it too far is what happened. So basically he says it's give your opinion or your emotions precedence over the revelation. That is why people are misguided. He says here, the people of faith have their own tastes and emotions, as the Prophet ﷺ explained in a Sahih hadith. We have two hadith that talk about the taste of faith. Which ones are those? Yeah. ثلاث من كن فيه وجد بهن حلاوة الإيمان. Three things, whoever has them, he will find the sweetness of faith. One, أن يكون الله ورسوله أحب إليه مما سواهما. To love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger more than anything else. وأن يحب المرء لا يحبه إلا لله. To love his fellow, mar means man, to love man, his fellow man, for nothing but Allah, but the sake of Allah. وأن تكره أن تعود نعم وأن يكره أن يعود في الكفر كما يكره أن يقذف في النار. To hate to go back into disbelief as much as one hates to be thrown into the hellfire. Like he has this much aversion from disbelief. Okay, so that is ذاق حلاوة ثلاث من كل فيه وجد بهن حلاوة الإيمان. He will find the sweetness of faith. And then the other one is ذاق طعم الإيمان من رضي بالله ربا بالإسلام دينا بمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. He will find the taste of Iman. If you literally speak, translated will be, he will taste the taste of Iman. So he will find the taste of Iman, he who accepts Allah as his Lord, Muhammad as his messenger, and Islam as his religion, and Muhammad as his messenger. So in this case, the taste of the believers makes them honor and revere and put first Allah and His Messenger. As in Surah Al-Hujurat, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقدموا. O you who believe, do not put forward. تقدموا, put forward. And بين يدي الله ورسوله literally means between the hands of Allah and His Messenger. And to be translated as Do not put forward your opinions, your emotions, your desires, your wants before what Allah and His Messenger say. So the two ahadith that talk about the taste, they stress this very issue. And يكون الله ورسوله أحب إليه مما سواهما. To have Allah and His Messenger be more beloved to him than anything else. And the other hadith, من رضي بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا رسول. He who accepts Allah as Lord, Islam as his religion, Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم as his prophet. Because the deviation happens when people depend on the taste and the feeling of the heart as a source of knowledge. And people of the extreme Sufi path, they do this. People of the extreme Sufi path, they do this. The issue for them is, and you know why I say extreme, so that it's not a blanket statement to, because there are people who subscribe to the Sufi path that wouldn't do this. Okay. But people of the extreme Sufi path, they depend on the feeling of the heart or the taste, for sorting out right from wrong, haqq from batil, truth from falsehood. And you, as a human being, you would actually be giving yourself too much credit if you think that you can, by your taste, sort out right from wrong. You have to really be dependent on the revelation. Now, so what is it with Prophet ﷺ saying, "Istafti qalbak," ask your heart? Can't they use this? Did Istafti qalbak ever been interpreted by the Sahaba as ask your heart, like you're not going to ask people of knowledge? No. It is because even if you ask people of knowledge, they may give you the answer, but in your application of this answer, you may err because you are following your whims or desires. If you ask the people of knowledge, someone will give you an answer, another one will give you another answer. And it may be impossible to get one single answer in many, many cases. In this case, istafti qalbak. Istafti qalbak here means what? Ask your heart means what? Am I truly looking for what is Allah's intent of this legislation or this command in this matter? Or am I, looking for, I want to really buy this car. I have this Lexus or Benz, and they don't have the 0% interest. And they have such a concocted contract. Every brother comes and tells me, this particular car agent, he told me of a contract, as if they make contracts like this. Every car agent or car dealer makes his own contracts. They have this different contract, and they have such cars, and anyway, but sometimes they do. But the bottom line is, you will go and ask a couple of people. One will say yes, one will say no. And if you're so attached to the car, like you really can't see yourself driving any other car, you will be drawn into you will see sort of the shaitan, or your love for that car will make that opinion, the permissibility, will make permissibility look quite convincing. It makes sense, perfect sense, mashallah. See, those are the scholars. And then other people will make everything hard for, just listen to them. So ask your heart, truly, look inside, be introspective, give yourself a chance to really sit with yourself. Because, being with yourself is quite important. Ask your heart has to do with this sort of dialogue with yourself, with your inner self, which you should have quite frequently. because people get too busy with work and, family and hobbies and et cetera, that people never get the chance to speak with themselves, to sort of have a dialogue with the inner self. Am I on the right path? Am I doing the right things? To contemplate, to be introspective, to have, to sort of expand your awareness of, the meaning of this life, the meaning of your existence. Why am I here? What am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I spending my years in goodness, or am I being fair to my family even? Not necessarily your relationship with Allah only, but your various relationships. So that is استفتي قلبك. It is not to sideline the revelation and just see what your heart feels. So it's called الوجد والذوق. الوجد is the feeling in the heart. الذوق is the taste. So it doesn't taste right. This particular matter doesn't taste right. Now, you may use the taste basically within the context of the revelation. Like you listen to what Allah says on His Messenger, you interpret them rightfully, like interpretation should be, and then use your taste that is what? Your taste that is guided by these principles. Have Allah and His Messenger more beloved to you, and to have what Allah and His Messenger decree given the highest priority and precedence. Within this framework, your taste will not lead you to misguidance. But sometimes there is a little bit of taste that is needed, because sometimes things are not all quite objective. Like, I give this example often, not because I pick on the sisters, but, the colors of attire, for instance. Which colors? There is no list of colors that are forbidden in the Sunnah. The thing should not be attractive in a way that would be attention grabber, and so on. So the sister then will use some taste, to say to herself, am I wearing this because it is attractive, or it will grab attention, or turn, heads, or whatever they say. And in this case, there is subjectivity here, and there is the use of your taste. The taste that is guided by the revelation. But in the case, so the people of faith, those two hadith describe their taste, but in the case of the people of kufr, innovations and desires, their tastes and emotions are in accordance with their own wants, likes, and whims. Then he talks about the wrong kinds of love. He says, Sufyan ibn Uyayna was asked, why do the people of whims love their desires so much? Why do the people of whims love their desires so much? And he said, have you forgotten the words of Allah? وَأُشْرِبُوا فِي قُلُوبِهِمُ الْعِجْلَ بِكُفْرِهِمْ, which means, and their hearts absorb the worship of the calf because of their disbelief. It is basically when you defy Allah, Allah lets you astray. And when you defy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah lets you go farther and farther into misguidance. So when when Bani Israel, children of Israel, worship the calf, Allah made this calf look so tempting and alluring. It's just like a statue of a calf that was made for them. And this is a common story between us and the Jews, and so it's an agreed upon story. So when they worshipped the statue of the calf, in fact, the Samari, the one who made it in such a way that when the wind passes by, it makes such like sounds that would make it even look more godly, or I know how, but to them, I guess it sounded like it is real. So when they worshipped it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made their hearts absorb it. أشربوا في قلوبهم. أشربوا is like from shurb, like from drinking. Like أشربوا في قلوبهم, like their heart drank it. Like their hearts became sort of drunk over it, or intoxicated with calf, like they're so attached to the calf as their Lord or God, because of their disbelief, and because also that they had just crossed the Red Sea, running away from Pharaoh, and they saw the miracle that is enormous, and then once they crossed and they started, it doesn't get any worse. They started to look for gods down here. When Allah split the sea for them into two halves, and they just walked through it. And the thing is, they saw it also drown, come back together. The two parts come back together, and drown Pharaoh and his soldiers. So then when they asked for other gods, Allah made them love this calf so much. And that's what we do. So it is a misjudgment, it's a lapse of judgment at some point, and then Allah would let you go farther and farther. So you need to be careful, and you need to sort of have like revisions. Go back and talk to yourself and say, what have I done in the past week or month or year, and so on. Because oftentimes you make those misjudgments, and then you just carry on with them. And then things get built one on top of the other, and it becomes so hard to fix. Like I got this, although it may be somewhat different, but I got this, someone who became practicing has so much guilt and so much regret that he cheated on one of the exams, sort of qualifying for college. So he believes that his entire career, after he got his PhD, was based on falsehood, and he's not able to get beyond it. So he went back all the way. Had I not cheated, I would have not made it to this college, and I would have not been here today. So my whole life is based on falsehood. Now, certainly, you tell him you just carry on with your life and do your best and seek ask Allah for forgiveness, and if you wronged anyone, try, etc. But again, it is when you make the misjudgment, it goes into a cycle. So you just to try to reverse those misjudgments as frequently as you can by frequent revisions. The worshippers of idols love their gods, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and of mankind are some who take for worship others besides Allah as rivals to Allah. They love them as they love Allah, but those who believe love Allah more than anything else. ومن الناس من يتخذ من دون الله أندادا يحبونهم كحب الله والذين آمنوا أشد حبا لله. Other people are people who take rivals besides Allah, whom they love as they love Allah, but those who worship Allah love Allah more than anything else. These people are easily swayed, and they love to listen to poetry and songs that could provoke all kinds of love, not just the unique kind of love which distinguishes the people of faith. So the love that a person feels, whether it is for Allah or for idols or the cross or their homelands or their brethren or young boys or women, will be stirred up by these poems and songs. These are the people who follow their own inclinations and emotions with no consideration for the Quran and Sunnah or the way of the first and best generations of this Ummah, the Salaf, Ridwanullahi alayhim. So basically, it is not just that you be nice. It is not just that you be loving. But loving of what? You love what? And for what? You love what and for what? Because some people get into this ecstasy where, they just want to love everything. So you end up loving evil. And they want to love everything, so they end up having excessive emotions for lots of things. You can have excessive emotions for lots of things. You can have emotions for, people of your same gender, of like many women, and you can only marry one, even if you can marry four, which is still okay. It still ends. There is still a limit. There is still a cutoff. And it is so sad because it's a society, in a society where women exhibit themselves, the men think that they are actually sort of coming on top, or they're enjoying their lives, but it actually creates more trouble for them, psychological trouble, a feeling of deprivation, and then it creates a feeling of satisfaction and gratification. Because at the end of the day, you'll have one or two, at the most four, not here, but even outside. But at the end of the day, even if you have four, you keep on looking at more and more, and you don't restrain yourself, you'll end up having this sense of deprivation. Because, like the Minister of Culture in Egypt in the previous system, he was quite the artist. He was into like this abstract art and stuff like that. So he never married. So they asked him one day, why have you not married? He said, every woman is a rose with a different color and odor or scent. Or why do I sort of lock myself up into one or limit myself to one? The whole garden is in front of you. It's just like crazy. Keep in mind that Greek philosophy was talking for a certain era about sort of socializing women, not talking. They practiced it. So sharing women in the community. So that is, tell me about commodification and exploit. It is beyond belief. But these were philosophers, supposedly intelligent people. But these people felt that, and they had their own way of justifying this. It is the best interest of the society. Because you actually take anyway, but go back and check it out. You'll find. So in this case, the idea here is not just about love. It's not just about being nice or being loving and so on. It is by the channeling all this love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then sort of redistributing from there. So all of your love is for Allah. You belong to Him. You are His, and your emotions are His as well. Now you will start based on Allah's will, the divine will. You sort of distribute this love. So the closer people are to Allah, the kinder and better and so on. You love them more and less and so on. And you love your family because Allah asks you to love your family. But that does not mean that we are complete robots, like we don't have emotions, like we we sort of have complete control over our emotions. No, it doesn't mean that. That means that you restrain the emotion when it takes you in the wrong path. You restrain your emotions. But we are not complete robots. There is a proof on this. The Prophet loved Aisha more, even though he had to be fair. But you have to be fair as far as you can be fair. And you can't be fair with your emotions. Yet, there is a limit, which is that you should not, be hateful, which is that you should not make this love affect your treatment. Like of your kids, for instance. Does anyone love his kids all the same? It is impossible. You want to say yes? Okay. Not even your kids. You don't love all of your kids the same way. And you're not asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do that. But you're asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be just in treating them. To treat them justly. Did the Prophet ﷺ love Fatima like the rest? No, he loved Fatima more. But justice was there. Justice is what you're required to do. So you're required to restrain your emotions so that they don't lead you to injustice or transgression. The one who goes against the message with which the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was sent, which is to worship Allah alone and to obey Him and His Messenger. And like I said, the issue here with this love and, to sort of listen to poetry and to listen to songs that will make you like in this ecstasy or is that impacts your judgment, impairs your judgment. And you should not get yourself into a state or a mood where your judgment will be impaired. Because you can get intoxicated over emotions, like wine, like you can get drunk with emotions. So you should always make sure that even your emotions do not make you intoxicated or drunk or have impaired judgment. Someone may say, I was created with like an affection for people of the same gender, not the opposite gender. And there is tendency, there is inclination, it is biological, it's physiological, you guys don't know what you're talking about, and so on. That's very possible. It is extremely possible. You get like a little harder test there. So here is your area where, you test. You get a harder test there. Because there is someone also who was created with compulsive stealing habit, that compulsive. But it doesn't mean at the end of the day that you should not be punished for this, or that it should be okay for you because you do have this compulsive habit. And there is, forget about this. Someone who's married, for instance, and he can't marry anymore. He's married to 4. So he maxed out on this. And then, he can see somewhere, like one of the neighbors, and feel that that's it. Forget about it. He's married to one. He's not married, but he can see someone who's married and get so attached to her that that is your test. It does not mean that it doesn't mean that you have any right. She is a married woman. You just have this extreme emotions for her. We're sorry. May Allah make it easy for you. But at the end of the day, it's your test. You have to deal with it. You have to tough it out. That's it. The same applies to a person who has some inclination that is not conducive to goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to say that a lot of children may be born with like a alcohol addiction, and they are more prevalent to be addicts in their life, and they have that inclination. But that's
So they're born with the biological tendency or
yeah,
inclination.
biological thing,
Yeah.
that doesn't
Yeah.
justify it. A doctor
Oh,
will
yeah.
say, well, okay, you have this huge desire to do this, it's okay. Like, no, you should strive even harder against it.
All kinds of there is a chemical pretext for much of criminality, and that is known. But in any nation in the world, does that make them, get criminals off the hook because there is chemical predisposition? There is chemical predisposition. They know it in criminology. If you take the brains of people who are serial murderers, for instance, and examine them, they will be different. They are chemically predisposed. They are physiologically predisposed to some extent. Does that mean you will, set them free and tell them, finish off your work? So the predisposition, the inclination, does not justify that which is wrong. It's still wrong. And that is where you get your test, or that is where your test is a little bit harder. Because keep in mind, someone else is being tested by some other test. Someone lost his 2 arms, or someone lost his eyesight. It is being tested. It's a different type of test. Born deaf and mute. Being tested, different type of test, and so on. So the one who goes against the message with which the messenger of Allah was sent, which is to worship Allah alone and to obey Him and His messenger, can never be a true follower of the religion prescribed by Allah. As Allah says, then we put you on the right way of religion, so follow that. ثم جعلناك على شريعة من الأمر فاتبعها ولا تتبع أهواء الذين لا يعلمون. We have put you on the right way of religion, so follow that way and follow not the desires of those who know not. Okay, so sometimes they indulge in a form of bid'ah which they call haqiqah, reality, and give it precedence over the religion which Allah has prescribed. Sometimes they use the universal or cosmic reality as an excuse not to pay heed to true religion, as in the case of the mushrikeen described in the Quranic ayat quoted above, when they said, Allah commanded us to do it. Among them, there is a group whom they hold in the highest esteem. These people adhere to whatever takes their fancy of the obligatory duties or prohibitions of religion. But they are misguided because they ignore some of the prescribed ways of worship, thinking that when a person reaches the status of arif is sort of knowing of the reality, or someone who comprehends the reality, knowledgeable of the reality. Yeah. Hey, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.